Hello, and welcome to Not Very Scary Stories. This will be our third haunted history episode. Today we'll have one story of a haunted location due to it being a little bit more active and famous. But I'd like to leave it up to you whether you'd like to believe it, as I've said before that the point of this brand's video series at first was to prove whether ghosts exist or not. I still stand behind this sentiment that these could all be fake or real. You can decide for yourself. I wasn't positive on where to start for the Haunted History series, so I used a list called The History Behind 40 of the Most Haunted Places in America to start with. Then proceeded with research and stories that are backed by witnesses or more than one report. I'd like to thank you guys for the support thus far on all the platforms you can find us on, including YouTube. I'd also like to remind everyone that if you have any scary stories or experiences you'd like to share, email me, darkskyGameNews@gmail.com, and tell me how you'd like to be credited. I'm Zenith Darksky, and I'll be your host tonight. Enjoy. The Ohio State Reformatory is perhaps one of the most famous prisons in America. It just so happens it's also famously haunted as well. Originally, the prison housed young males that were first-time and non-violent offenders. The object was to reform them by teaching skills and enhancing their spirituality. However, over the years, the state was faced with a growing prison population, and they were forced to send hardened criminals to the reformatory. The reformatory became overcrowded, and cells designed to hold one man now held 3 or more inmates. The focus then shifted from reformation to punishment. Punishments were performed with antiquated torture devices that included the butterfly, a form of electro-torture, water hoses, a sweat box for non-white prisoners, and the hole, which was a small, barren, solitary confinement cell. Besides being tortured, the inmates were also subjected to extreme violence from other inmates. Horrific food, rat infestations, and infectious diseases. Preferential treatment was possible, but only to the inmates who could afford to pay for it. The tragedies weren't only with the inmates in the facility, but also with the staff. In 1935, Arthur Glatke was appointed as the superintendent. He immediately began various reforms designed to improve the miserable conditions of the prison. But Glatke and his wife, Helen, lived in the administration wing of the reformatory, and on November 5, 1950, Helen allegedly knocked a gun off the shelf in a closet, and when that gun hit the floor, it discharged a bullet into Helen's chest. She managed to cling to life for 3 days, but died after suffering from complications due to pneumonia. Glatke continued in his position as superintendent with much respect from the staff and the inmates, until he suffered a fatal heart attack in his office on February 10, 1959. We don't know what caused the heart attack. Visitors and employees have reported experiencing strong paranormal events in the administration wing. Some claim that they have smelled rose perfume coming from Helen's pink bathroom. Others have reported feeling a rush of cold air pass through them as they walk through the area. The reformatory is now open to ghost tours and other tours, and even ghost hunting classes. It's not uncommon to hear of a jammed camera shutter, which inexplicably resumes working again once the visitor leaves the area. In the middle admin area on the 3rd floor, many people claim that shadow people, audible voices, footsteps, and the feeling of not being alone is the norm. In the admin basement, there seems to be 2 different entities down there. One's nice, while the other is not. The chapel has made many skeptics less skeptical. Reportedly, the ghosts have been getting rather grabby up there as well. Supposedly, before the area became the chapel, it was used for executions. People have said that they have captured many orbs and that they have recorded strange, unidentifiable sounds when inside the chapel. Spirits have been sighted hanging around the doorways, but disappear once their presence has been detected here. Many prisoners died miserable deaths in the infirmary. It has been said that sick and dying inmates were left there without care. Many who starved to death because they were too weak to fight off the thieves that stole their food. This area is now known to set off EMF detectors, and many claim to have captured clusters of orbs in photographs. An unexplained gust of air passing by has also been reported by visitors in this area, or otherwise known as cold spots. The spirit of a 14-year-old who was beaten to death in the basement has been spotted lingering among the decaying basement walls. Also spotted is a guard who gives off sinister vibes. The sub-basement area has allegedly produced intense experiences and substantial evidence. Supposedly, this area was even avoided when the building was still in operation. Psychics who have visited the library have reported seeing the spirit of a young woman, possibly Helen, or a nurse, who was killed by one of the prisoners. Many have reported seeing objects move in the inmates' graveyard, and equipment failure is very common there. When prisoners were still housed at OSR, some of them said that they felt a woman pull their blankets up around them in a comforting way. In the East Wing on the first floor, apparently lately this area has been pretty good for experiences and evidence. They rarely have a night there where nobody experiences at least a few shadow people. In the West Attic, a very well-known paranormal celebrity had an experience up there and refused to go back in. While in both the East and West cell blocks, these areas have even brought grown men to tears. Many murders and suicides took place in these areas. Then, there was solitary confinement. This was the prison inside prison. Many men took their own lives while housed in this area. A lot of negative paranormal activity has been reported in the 20 solitary cells, each one. Reports of sudden nausea, fever-like chills, and an uncomfortable feeling of being watched have occurred while visiting the area. It is perhaps the creepiest and most active area of the prison. And that may just be because the prison is still home to many lost prisoners.